Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Becca Levi, and I'm going to be walking you through some incredible things. I'm a student at the College of Western Idaho, where this semester we took on the incredible, awesome opportunity of helping in the effort to prevent suicide. We did this through combining the efforts of 3 different classes. This was a cross-curricular effort through the Media Arts Department. Today, I am so honored to show you the compilation of things that we've created. There are stories, there are trainings, and there are some fun videos as well. These things were all compiled onto a student-made website called Hope for Idaho. As you will see in a moment, there are all sorts of resources on there that have all of these different stories and all of the resources. One of the things that was extremely cool about this was the way that our class was able to come together and really grow with each other. As you'll see now, the homepage houses the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. If you're in immediate crisis, this is the number to call. On top of that, we have stories, as I mentioned, stories from our class and some of the people in there. There's a podcast that was made by a few of the students in the multimedia storytelling class as well. And there's a great playlist called Hopeful Hits. So if you're into music and you like that to boost your mood, that's the place to go. There's another video called How to Be Happy, and it's 5 hopeful little tips on how you can keep yourself happy. The last thing, and possibly the most important, is our training. We're going to get more into that later, but right now I would like to bring on Austin Burris. He is a student at CWI, and he's been there through this entire process. So Austin, would you just tell us all about the origin and everything about this project that you'd like to share?
Of course, Becca. So originally this project started kind of a few weeks into class. So we were getting settled in, and then our professor basically started speaking about a project, and we were like, okay, so this is just like, any other project that we've ever done. But then he told us the topic, which is going to be dealing with suicide prevention. And we were like, oh, this is kind of serious. This is a pretty deep sort of subject that we're talking about here. So then we started getting more serious about this project. We had started basically made a multimedia effort for this project. We've had written stories for people. We have a website that is built for us. We've had podcasts that are made, and we have made deep research to help people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts. Now, I just want to bring up a few special stories, to me at least, that helped highlight this process for me. So one of the stories that really got to me was Austin's back. So I remember when Andrea first started doing this story, she was really emotional about telling her brother's story. Austin, who grew up in an abusive household and through a lot of different trials and tribulations, eventually attempted his own life, but thankfully he failed at that. And I remember when she started talking about that story, she was so emotional about it. But as time went on, and she wanted to not only be able to do this for herself, but also to tell her brother's stories. And I remember one moment right in the middle of our semester, she told the story about how she wanted Austin to be a better father than his own. And it was something that was both special to Austin as well as to Andrea herself, because I can definitely hear the pride in her voice when she told that. Another thing that I wanted to highlight, and maybe it's just because I'm a writer, me personally, was Inspiring Hope by Isabel. Now this story, it's a short story basically that deals with a girl who, happy, tries to give help and that sort of thing, but then she kind of loses hope and that sort of thing and falls into a deep depression. And as you can see here, this little image here is just so important to her. That image is basically a tattoo on her body. And in her darkest days in that story, which is, she found basically meaning in that. It's a wave with meaning into a sun. And she found such meaning, particularly in those 7 rays, because those 7 rays indicate the lucky number 7. And it just really does speak to me about how much hope that she found in that tattoo. And I think that speaks so much to what we were trying to do with this project.
Wow, that's super cool. So the stories that those two girls in our class shared, those are very personal and difficult to share. Why do you think they were so willing to share something that personal?
I think it's because they were able to find trust in us. Initially, they were, like I said, very guarded. Um, Isabel herself was actually very timid at first, but as time went on and we got more and more comfortable with each other, we made it into a safe space for them to share their stories, to let them know that it's okay to share those stories with us, to let their voices be heard. And eventually they were able to open up to us. And it deeply impacted me just observing that sort of thing, watching that process happen. And I know for a fact that it was a positive thing for both of them. And it's just something that I think will stick with all of us for probably the rest of our lives.
Oh, I really appreciate that, and I agree. I recall during this process, a few of the students who made the podcast Glass and Iron, they were in the middle of the podcast. You can really tell where that trust it comes out, and it's very apparent that they trust each other and they trust the rest of us enough to say, "Hey, I was struggling, but I came through, and this is how, and let it help you." And it's, as you said, Austin, it's been incredible to just watch that happen and to be a part of it. So I appreciate that. The next thing we're going to talk about is a training. I mentioned this briefly earlier, and this is called QPR. This was brought to us in an interview we did with Shannon Decker. She is the executive director of the Speedy Foundation, and their mission is to prevent suicide and promote conversation about mental health and to educate people on suicide prevention. So QPR is a very short training video that we're going to watch a little clip of.
But it teaches us to intervene as a bystander. So QPR teaches us, it empowers us to question directly, are you having thoughts of suicide? Persuade them that there's hope and that there's help available, and then refer them to the appropriate help.
It's a great video, and I recall when I first watched that, I just felt this sense of immediate relief because there was a little bit of pressure on me. I'm doing this project on suicide prevention, but I didn't know what I could do in a moment that a friend or family member came to me and said, "I'm not doing great. Can you help me?" And now I know I have some very quick steps I can take just to help them get through the next few minutes until I can get them to professional help. And that's really comforting for me because I want to be helpful and I want people to know I care about them. Now, a project like this, it doesn't get to be known by people just by chance, right? It has to be promoted by somebody. So I'm going to bring on Marissa Stuckey. She is part of the promotions team, and she's going to just tell us about her process and what that looked like for the promotional class.
Yeah, no, it's a beast to handle, and our class did an amazing job with just taking it and we ran with it. And we first had to start with a logo. I mean, you can't brand anything, you can't promote anything without your logo. So it's unique because our logo has the ribbon and the blue and the purple, which is actually the suicide prevention colors. As well as when you look at the wording, we went with a very lyrical, and we just wanted it very visually pleasing to be looking at, because essentially this is what we want to be known as. This is what we are putting out there for the world. So we want to be able to stand out and make it. You know what I mean? Ali Priest did an amazing job with taking our vision for 3 classes and combining it into one logo, which she did an amazing job. And here you guys can see the blue and the purple, and it makes you intrigued. It makes you want to know more. You want to be inspired by it, which was really unique. So then our next kind of step was, we can't promote anything unless we start somewhere. So we had to break up into 5 different groups. We had our branding team, which they came up with a phenomenal message. And our message is, Hope for Idaho is a student-run program in the Treasure Valley with the mission to start the conversation about mental health. Our goal is to provide our community with resources to help our loved ones in an effort to reduce the risk of suicide. Beautifully done. They captured everything that we were trying to do into our message. That way there is no confusion that we are here to help people. We are here for people to be hopeful. And then our next was our research team, which they put together an amazing survey that we were able to promote and ask. Some of the questions were, are you a CWI student? Are you aware of any of the CWI mental health and suicide prevention resources? Would you ever consider using the mental health and suicide prevention resources if you ever needed it? Would you ever be willing to use a CWI counselor? So we were able to put that on our social media, and some of the results were kind of shocking because a good majority of our community, our CWI community, knew about it, but there was also a lot of the CWI students who didn't know about it. So for this project, we were able to reach out and know we could reach out to those people. Our next was our street team, and their job was to promote this, to get it out, to find a way to make sure that everybody knew. And they had a really unique way of doing this through rocks. Is they painted on, as you can see here, they painted some of the rocks, which right here, these are at the Caldwell at the Canyon County campus. So they're all spread out. We're gonna have a little map, so it's a little scavenger hunt, which is really fun. And if any of you guys would love to paint a rock, we'd love to see it. Make sure to tag us. So they did a really unique way of spreading our word. And then our next was our external affairs, which they had an extremely important job because they had to reach out to the CWI marketing department, the professors, the deans, to really make sure that everybody knew about this project. So that way professors could let the students know. So that way we could try to get onto the CWI homepage, which that in itself is amazing. And then our next is our social media. So we came up with our Instagram, just Hope for Idaho, and our Facebook, Hope for Idaho. And we were able to come up with a really fun hashtag Be Hopeful. And you can go ahead, search it right now. You can see some of our posts, some of our students and our professors' posts too, which is really fun to see the outside part of it. This whole project, it was intense. It's hard because not only do we not, it's a topic a lot of people don't want to talk about, but regarding everything that's going on, the stay-at-home orders, this was a 3-class project. And we had to communicate all through Blackboard, email, lots of Zoom calls. But the unique thing about it is we had the vision and we knew this was important. And so we were able to go out and we were able to do that regardless of what was going on. So although it came together beautifully, there were challenges and we all stuck with it and we were able to push through and make this really an awesome project. And something that stood out to me through our social media, we were going through our survey results and we were we were tallying everything in, getting our percentages and everything. And there was one account who they did not go to CWI. They may or may not have, I don't know their situation, they could have, but they did answer. They said they would be willing to use CWI resources. So with that, I kind of had to step back a little bit and think, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know, they could be sitting in class and they could be fine. We didn't have to go very far outside of our class to find these stories that are real and they are as raw as they will get. So when I saw these results come in, I'm like, this one student or this one account, she doesn't go to CWI, but they would still be willing to use our resources. So moral of my story is be kind to everyone. And that was my biggest takeaway is you already know that and you shouldn't have to have someone say that to you, but be kind to everybody because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, regardless if they're a student here at CWI or not. So in all, it's a beautiful project that we were able to come up with over our courses here.
That's incredible. It sounds like it had a really good and lasting impact on you as well as your classmates.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you, Marissa. The next thing we're going to talk about is what the video production class contributed to this project. We were tasked, those of us in the classes were tasked with creating a PSA for suicide prevention.
If you knew someone close to you that was having thoughts of suicide, what would you do?
There are ways to help them before it's too late. Question them, persuade them to let you help them, and lastly, refer them to someone who can further aid them with their depression.
Suicide is preventable, and the first step is awareness. Everybody has a role to play in suicide prevention. Visit the Hope for Idaho website to learn more.
Incredible. I recall my own time making a PSA for this project, and that's when everything changed for me. I've always been a student who's like, grades, 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 I want an A. But it finally became something so much more real. It became the most important project I've done in my academic career. I realized that making this PSA wasn't about getting an A. it was about reaching people, reaching even just one person and changing or maybe even saving one person's life. And that's what made this project for me so easy to pour my heart and soul into. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. So the next thing that I want to talk about is what you all can do. First thing, learn QPR. Learn how to question very directly. Learn how to persuade them that there's hope. It does get better. Learn how to refer them to the professionals, the people that can help them further. The next thing I want you to do is, if you are in an immediate crisis or someone you know is, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Or if you aren't comfortable talking on the phone to somebody, there is actually a text line of sorts on imalive.org. And this is a great way for people who don't want to talk on the phone. It can make you anxious and make the situation worse. And that's okay. You can have a message conversation with somebody who cares about you and is willing to help you right away. And there's a video as well on our website that highlights what imalive.org does, which is incredible. And I just love to see how our media is able to just cover these kinds of things. The last thing I want you all to do is join me in flooding social media with pictures and descriptions of things that give you hope. And make sure you use that hashtag that Marissa highlighted called #BeHopeful. That way I can go search that hashtag when I'm done here and find all of the incredible things that make you all hopeful, because that helps keep me happy as well. So I just want to say thank you all for joining us. Do those things that I've asked, please. If not for you, for the person's life that you could be saving. And thank you for letting me highlight the impact that it's had on me, and for letting the rest of us highlight the impact it's had on us and our classmates.